Díodit agus fáilte arás go Gaeilge amach chraí. Hello and welcome back to Irish in my heart. And if you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Molly and I'm here to teach you Irish. Inniu beimeidig deanú fhíseán an Aimsir Fháistineach. Today we will be I'm making a video about the future tense in Irish. To me, it's a little bit easier than present tense because you don't conjugate any of the pronouns with the endings. I've already done a video on the past tense, an Aimsir Fháistineach, the present tense, an Aimsir Fháistineach, and I've also done a video on the irregular verbs in each case. I'm going to do the same thing with the future tense, make this video about how to use it, and then I'm going to make a video about the irregular verbs. An chéad síos, first of all, there are two branches. An chéad réimniú, the first branch, has verbs with just one syllable, SYLLABLE. And within that branch, there is scéil or leathan verbs. Scéil, slender, or leathan, broad. PLÉIGE is a one syllable scéil verb because the last vowel, the last and only vowel in LÉIGE is I, which is a slender vowel. LÉIGE means to let or release. The endings for one syllable scéil verbs are as follows. FIDH. You don't pronounce the F like in English, it's more like he. And I'm going to use LÉIGE as an example. LÉIGE he may. LÉIGE he two. LÉIGE he sé, LÉIGE he she, LÉIGE he sin or mudge, LÉIGE he shiv, or LÉIGE he shade.
So if you want to warn somebody that you're going to fart, you would say, LÉIGE he may bring. I will fart. So get ready.
And then for one syllable leathan verbs, where the last vowel is A, O, or U. The last or the only vowel in the verb. So the example I'm going to use is stad, which means to stop. The ending I would add onto stad is FAIDH. And then that's pronounced like stad he may, stad he two, stad he she, stad he sé, stad he mudge or shin, stad he shiv, stad he shade. And that is it for the chéad réimniú, the first branch of one syllable verbs covering scéil and leathan. So the ending will depend on the last or the only vowel in that verb. That will determine whether you use FIDH or FAIDH. Now a good clue I use to remember which one is it. Credge, to believe. The last vowel in that is I, which is slender. Is it FIDH or FAIDH I put on? In FIDH, the only vowel is an I, which is slender, so that's how I remember. FIDH is for the slender verbs, and then FAIDH, well, it has A, which is leathan, that's for the leathan verbs. I hope that makes sense. I hope that might help you to remember it a bit better. Now there's a little exception here for the first branch, so you might get verbs that end in IGH but they're one syllable. For example, play, which means to discuss. So what you do in that case is you take away IGH and then still add the one syllable ending. So for play, it's a slender verb. The last vowel when you take away IGH is E. Play he, FIDH. A little hint to tell how many syllables. I don't know, it's probably something people already know. How many times your chin drops when you say it. So, play, it just dropped once. Cree, knee, it dropped twice. So that's how I know it's two syllables. Don't know if that's like the most basic thing and you're like,
why are you telling me that? I knew that for years.
But I still think it's a cool way to tell. Now moving on then to the second branch. So, Andara réimniú. This is for verbs that have more than one syllable, that are two syllables. I don't think there's any three syllable verbs. Could be wrong. And again, we have leathan or scéil. So broad or slender. Now with two syllable verbs, what happens before you add the ending is you take away AIGH, IGH. I'm first going to use the verb aili, for example, which means to escape, which ends in AIGH. Now remove the AIGH, just forget about that. Okay, take that away. Now what are we left with? E fada A L. So the last vowel is the A, which makes it a Latin verb. The ending for two syllable Latin verbs is O fada IDH. Add that on and it becomes ANYWAYYY. Now an example for two syllable scéal verb, SMAOINIGH, which means to think. So it ends in IGH. So remove that, take it away, and we're left with SMAOIN. So what is the last vowel in that? We've actually got three vowels in that. I is the last one, and that's a slender vowel. The endings for two syllable scéal verbs is EOIDH. Add that on to SMAOIN, and you have SMAOINIGH. To explain that further, we have the verb OSCAIL, to open. Now OSCAIL, before the L there's AI, so it's two syllables and we have to remove the AI before we add the ending. So it goes from OSCAIL to OSCAIL. The last and only vowel is O. So it's a broad verb. We're going to add O fada IDH to OSCAIL, OSCAILOWY. And if a verb is two syllables and it has I in the second syllable, for example, immer, which means to play, we remove the I, so it goes from immer to imr, and then we add the appropriate ending. So the last vowel in that, the only one, is I, which is slender. Imrowy. So we don't pronounce it with the Y like I did before because it's too difficult. It clashes with the or. You can't say imriowy. So the difference then is because there's no fada on the O in EOIDH, you don't emphasize it as much. So it's imrowy, osclowy. So you have more emphasis. You elongate the O when it's got the fada. Just to quickly recap again then, there are two branches for the future tense. Anhéad réimniú, the first branch, agus an dara réimniú, the second branch. In the first branch, we have verbs that are SYLLABLE, one syllable. With those verbs, you decide whether it's scéal or Latin. Is the last vowel in the verb broad or narrow? And then you will decide the ending. So if it's broad, it's going to be FAIDH. And if it's slender, it will be FIDH. Then we have dara réimniú, the second branch, for verbs that are two syllables. You take away the AIGH, the IGH, the AI or the I. So if the last vowel is A, O or U, add O fada IDH. The last vowel is I or E, you add EOIDH. And then your pronouns for whoever will do whatever the verb is. Let me know what you thought of this video. Was it helpful? Was it confusing? Just let me know. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more videos on the Irish language. Turn on your notifications so that you never miss an Irish video with me. And also follow my Instagram because I post there about 3 to 4 times a week with little quizzes sometimes or just bits of vocabulary, verbs in Irish. So you want to check that out. If you want to get some extra Irish, go and follow my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Gora maigad agus slán leat. If you ever want to say you will fart, if you ever want to give anybody a warning, it's I feel so weird saying this. You can use it to say fart. If you want to give somebody a warning, you know, let them know that you will fart. Well, this is how you say it. This has to be one of the weirdest examples of verbs or sentences I've given, but you know what? I mean, it's a pretty common thing to do, so you know, it's all part of science. Anyway, so the ending for lig for present for future tense. So imroí. So we don't